If your goal is to hook readers fast, then you may just need to fix your first chapter. So stay tuned for this episode.
Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write lots of stuff.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome back. Here we are on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's always when you can catch us live. Although we also do appreciate if you're able to listen or watch later. You can find the audio version of the podcast on any platform where you find your other favorite podcasts. And if you don't mind, would you come over to YouTube and give us a like and a subscribe that will help us to reach more indie authors with this content. So,
speaking of our live chat, I need to apologize. Apparently, I scheduled this for 10 p.m. and we didn't realize it till we were ready to go live. And so there's like nobody here. So I'm really sorry if y'all thought we were doing a late night one. Nope. I just need a nap all the time right now. I'm so sorry.
Well, what was funny was that you were so happy that you like remembered to schedule it. Remember during our meeting, you're like, it's scheduled.
It's all done.
Oh, but look, Christy and Sadie found us. Good morning. Hello. So glad that you're able to join us. The people who are able to join us in our live chat always have so much awesome stuff to contribute. It really is worth coming over if you are able. Okay, so today's topic is hooking your reader, how to hook your readers in chapter 1. Excuse me, just a moment. I need to clear my throat. There's an old... Go ahead.
Sorry, when you're clearing your throat, and say, can you hear my dogs barking in the background? If we stop talking, you'll be able to hear them. Probably the evil UPS guy is here, or the mail lady dare to go near our mailboxes. Probably what's happening right now.
They're saving your life as
they're
we speak.
Yes, if I only could understand how much protection they're offering me right now. Yes.
You're so ungrateful.
Yeah, I know, right?
They always say there's only one chance to make a first impression. Mm-hmm. And your first chapter is making promises to your reader, whether you realize it or not. So today, we're going to talk about what makes an excellent first chapter. And we're going to start by talking about one of the things we talk about so much is characters matter.
Yes. They're so important. I mean, like, I don't care how great of a story you have. If your characters are not likable, no one is going to care about that story. So you have to really, first and foremost, look at your characters and make sure that the characters that you're writing, your readers really going to care about them. Like, are they worthy of your readers' love and attention?
Exactly. My sarcastic mind just popped up and thought, I wonder if you tried to write a book without any characters.
Well, so it's not exactly an answer to that, but my sprint for today kind of touches a little bit on, I guess I'm gonna say stay tuned for the sprints because there is some difficulties I'm having with what I'm writing. So we'll talk about that.
Well, I just was going to say, Tina, to your point, to be kind of, I don't know what, remember my Tolkien escapade on my recent road trip, how I turned on The Lord of the Rings and I was like, who would even read this book? Because the whole first 10 chapters are world building and are not about characters. And that's a DNF for me, unless I decide to go back and skip all of that. So I guess if you're Tolkien famous already, you probably could get away with no characters, because obviously there is an audience for that book, even though it's not me. Obviously the book is considered a masterpiece, or at least a fan favorite.
But let's assume that we're all not Tolkien. And so since we aren't,
except for me.
Yeah. And since we aren't, we really do need to focus on making sure that our characters are characters that our readers will care about.
Yeah, characters matter more than world building in chapter 1, especially.
Yeah, I mean, because people are not reading because of your plot. The plot you unfold slowly. People are going to keep reading because they start caring about your characters and what the plot is doing to them, right? So if characters aren't good, the plot doesn't matter.
And who wasn't there that one guy that had the theory that there's only really 3 plots anyway?
Right.
Or 4. I don't know. I don't know what the number was, but every story there's only 3 or 4 options for what the plot is about. And the rest of it is the differences in the characters and all of the details.
Yeah.
Well, this next tip is, hello, Jason. Hi. So good to see you.
Excuse me, Reverend Jason.
Yes.
For everybody
saw that.
I had not posted. I forgot to post it, but I have a picture. I'll post it later. A picture of our friend Jason at his ordination. So congratulations, Jason. We're so happy that you're here joining us, but we're also very proud of you. It's a lot of work you put into that. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we're just very happy for you.
I saw a post on social media and I thought that's what was going on, but I only saw pictures and I was like, is he proposing to somebody? Because he was like down on his knees.
With all these men and women in suits around him.
Congrats. Yeah. And also, good morning to Catherine Carroll. She said expectations for books were completely different in Tolkien's time too.
They wanted them to be long and dragged up because it needed to last. You didn't have access to like tones and tones of books that would be for the really rich people, right? Like if you had a book or borrowed a book or you bought a book, like it needed to last you. You didn't have television and social media and all this instant gratification. Now it's different for sure.
Well, this next tip we have is to give readers a reason to root for your protagonist immediately. And honestly, friends, I would really like what does that even mean? Because in my opinion, you don't even really know somebody in the first few seconds that you see them. So are you supposed to make them beautiful or handsome?
No.
What are you supposed to do? Hold on, because the very first draft of the very first novel I ever wrote, I thought was pitch ready. And one of the feedback I got from an agent was, why do I care about this character? And I'm like, because she's having this little crisis that's happening. And in my mind, I was like, you're going to want things to go well, right? So if you drop them right into the middle of some action and nobody knows them yet, how do you do this?
There's lots of different ways, but let me give you an example from my second book. Sorry, because it's the first thing that popped in my head. I don't always want to just be pitching my books, but this is what I know the best, I guess. My character, John, in my second book, he's not a great guy at the beginning of the book. Like he is kind of like, he's not a Christian at this point. He's kind of a womanizer, but we get insight of him on the battlefield instantly. And there's a moment that he has with a young soldier from the opposing side. And that moment lets you see some humanity in John. Later on, as you slowly learn John's whole story, you understand where John is coming from and who he is. But you got to find some little element of humanity or something that a reader can connect to that makes them like them. So your pitch ready book, Jamie, probably just needed a little tweaking. Give us something, because you're so good at giving us characters that we can relate to and that we like instantly. It probably was just the fact that you were a new writer and you just had not developed that in you at that point yet. So if someone, just from your example, I've not read it, but if somebody is going through something really bad, there's not everybody in the world that I want that to work out for. There are some people that I could list out that I'd be kind of happy if something bad happened to them. Okay, so I'm exaggerating.
No, you're not. I don't believe you.
There are right, exactly.
Exactly too.
But if you don't know those people yet, right? And you were to see those people on the street, like, yeah, you wouldn't want them to get hit by a car, but like you also like don't connect with them the way if like you saw someone that even in the grocery store for a minute, you saw them pay for someone else's groceries and they went on their way and then they got hit by a car. You see what I'm saying? There's a little more connection there. You know a little piece of them.
And the thing that immediately came to my mind came out of one of my books, where I have my main character standing in line, and she sees an injustice.
Mm-hmm.
And she immediately like, no, and she goes to right this wrong that's being done to somebody else at the same time where she's walking into her own injustice that's happening to her.
Yeah.
That she's not able to fight. So I feel like that formula worked really well in that instance.
I think that this ties in. Remember how we were trying to talk about start action immediately? And we were trying to talk about, it doesn't need to be like, storming a beach or battle scene. It can be something else. These descriptions of what you ladies are talking about are great examples there.
Right. A tea party with a little girl says a lot about a teenage boy. It was everything you write, Jamie, the woman who's washing the dishes while everything else is happening around her. Like you learn so much about her and the way she's handling the adversity that's happening around her while she's just washing dishes. So things like that, that's what we're talking about, is you give us some sort of little like piece of who they are, an insight into who they are.
And I think a big part of it is your readers are going to connect to your character through shared feelings of, yeah, that's something that I faced. That's something that I feel. That's an adversity in my life also, either now or in the past.
Because I do think that innate in all of us, there is a certain amount of sympathy that when we're reading and something bad is happening to somebody, that we feel that. However, we're going to feel that way deeper. Like I said earlier, like if it's the little old lady who takes the last money she has and helps a single mom pay for the rest of her groceries, and then she puts some of her groceries back, that gives us a little bit more insight than if we just see another little old lady out there, right? We still feel bad for that little old lady, but this it feels like an injustice when that little old lady gets hit by a car.
Yes, and we're talking about making these connections through these scenarios that would seem kind of relatable to us. And that is reminding me of how we said, when you read in a book that someone is riding a bike, it's like you are riding the bike. So if we can do something authentic, that will help the readers to make that connection sort of mentally and emotionally, not just physically.
Right.
Okay, so now there can be some mistakes in, trying to do this characters that you love technique. Trying to introduce all of your characters at once is probably not a great idea if we're trying to hook the reader.
Agreed. You have to pick one, focus on one. And the same way too is you can't show us everything about the character. So don't try to give us pages and pages of backstory of who this person is. That's something you'll introduce later. What you have to do is you have to give us one little tidbit of this person that kind of like exemplifies who they are.
Right. And you don't want to make them too passive. They have to have agency in their own life.
What do you mean, Tina?
They have to have the gumption or something inside them that's pushing them to do something about whatever it is that's going wrong.
So like in your example, you don't want a main character who just stands by and watches somebody else stand up for the injustice.
Right. She stood up for someone else's injustice, even though she's impotent in her own.
Right.
Very good.
And I would argue too that if you were to write a character that just is staying there and everything that's happening in the chapter is happening to her, like that does tell us something about the character too, but there has to be something that they're making a choice. There has to be, even if it's internally, that they could make the decision to step out of whatever the chaos is, or to, but they stay there because they've always been told to stay there. Does that make sense? So they're still making a choice. So like, I agree with what Tina's saying, is you want them to be passive, but you have to like show like there's something that they are doing that in that chapter that shows us who they are as a person.
Yes, it's a classic show don't tell, right?
Yes.
And so you are showing something about how they're wired, or there's some reason why this behavior is manifesting. Very good.
Yep.
Okay. So next point or tip that we have for hooking a reader in the first chapter is creating curiosity with a meaningful problem. Oh, that sounds like a bit of a tough nut to crack. What do you ladies think?
Well, you just don't want to give your readers, just like you don't want to try to give the entire backstory for the character, you also don't want to give them like the problem and the answer to the problem immediately in chapter 1. The readers need to feel like, whether they realize it or not, they need to feel like they're helping solve the problem, or that they're part of the solution. Like otherwise there's no reason for them to turn the page, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that the word meaningful is really meaningful in this in this set, because we all have problems every day. But it has to be something that is going to get your reader to go, oh, I want to see the solution to this problem.
And sometimes just the fact that your character believes it's a meaningful problem, whether other people do or not, it's both character building and engaging for the reader.
Right. And I think it goes back to the origin of story and history itself. Like the whole thing about having to survive in a, back in the days when, I don't know if we were here when dinosaurs walked the earth, but like the picture of that one show, Land of the Lost, came to mind. So like the cavemen came back to the cave and told the story of how they ran into the saber-toothed tiger and how they survived it. And so the purpose of the story was everybody else listened because they might run into a saber-toothed tiger. And they might need to know how to survive. And so like that element in story, I think still exists in every story. Like I might meet Mr. Right, which I already have. I'm just saying hypothetically. And I need to know, like, how do I behave? How do I act? How does this play out if I'm going to have my happily ever after?
Well, where I kind of struggle, and this is part of the editing of my book that I wrote about last week, is the difference between confusion and curiosity. Now, I've shared my first chapter, and it was really great to see you ladies lean in with curiosity about what is going on. But then you wonder, especially if you're writing something like futuristic or fantasy, how much do you have to spoon feed your reader before they're just absolutely confused about what is going on? I mean, I guess I maybe said that wrong, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because like, even like if we go all the way back to your first example, Jamie, like you knew your character really well. There's often times that we know our characters really well, but then we forget to write them in a way that somebody who doesn't know them eventually knows them as well as we do. That example I said about the person that just was letting everything in the scene happen to them. If you just wrote that chapter, but there was no nugget of information of why that person was happy, like all you would need is a sentence of, but since daddy always told me to stay, here I am. And then you move on. You don't have to give them the whole story, but it makes you go like, what? Who's daddy? Like, why their daddy tell them to stay? Do you know what I mean? Now we're like, is she abused? It like, there's all these things those questions start answering. So you need to have curiosity, but make sure that there's enough in there so that they're not confused about why it's happening. Like it has to make sense. Like a person would just not stay in the middle of like an abusive, like things happening in an abusive situation, just stand there and take it. The people would be like, no, don't do. Why are they not running? You have to give them a little bit so that they know that. So
it's like the appetizer before a meal, because a lot of times the appetizer just wakes up your appetite. to want to eat more.
Mm-hmm.
And so you give them a little appetizer so that they're going to want the meal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's interesting because our next point and what you just said, Tina, kind of ties into this question that Christy has. Is it important for the small problem to mirror the larger overall plot problem? Like, is that a good story goal? And we have in here, use unanswered questions to create momentum. So I guess we're kind of saying, yes, that is a very good goal. It's not a requirement, but that would make sense and be completely awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I would say as long as it moves the story forward.
Mm-hmm. It has to be connected.
Just a mirror. Yeah, it has to somehow move your story forward.
There's got to be some sort of connection to the overall plot that you're doing or the theme of what you're doing. I love to frame stories like the book I was talking about at the very beginning. It starts with this it's a battle scene and like there's a moment where like he feels like pierced by like the weapon, and then you go to where she is his future love interest and she feels like she's got a dagger in her heart, but then at the end I mirror that back. The third book, she's on a train and she has these like kind of like thoughts about her future and along with the train, and at the end I mirror that, like she's on a train station again. And so like I think that you could do framing and make sure, but it has to somehow be connected. Yes. Otherwise it just feels like it's this like kind of loose thing flying out there. So, but again, if you have a good plot, it would make sense anyway. Like you're going to go from the minute you start writing, like it's everything is going to be connected. So it should just happen naturally, I think.
You're muted, Jamie.
I was just going to say, hand in hand with that is introducing the main conflict, unmet desire, or problem early, even if it's in a sort of foreshadowy way.
Yes.
Such as, when edict came down from the king, that blah, blah, blah will happen. Or just whatever kind of a way that you can hint around that the larger problem is on the horizon.
Agreed.
So what do you do about creating intrigue, but not making some kind of an artificial cliffhanger that's like, oh, please, this is totally meant to make me turn the page to chapter 2?
Right. I mean, you can use a cliffhanger. I mean, that we've talked about that. There's other episodes we've done about making or having your readers turn the page. So it's not a bad thing. But like, again, to Christy's question, if everything is connected, if the problem that you're introducing in the first chapter is connected to your overall plot or theme, then when you can do a cliffhanger and it's not going to feel artificial. An artificial cliffhanger is when we're doing a story about a romance and they meet each other and then all of a sudden a car pulls up and kidnaps a person and takes them away. And then you're just standing there like, what happened? And then later on, you find out like, oh, it was just her cousin that picked her up. Like, so that's so artificial. That doesn't have anything to do with the story plot. That's like just thrown in there to try to like get you to be like, oh, well, I should turn the page. That's what we're talking about. That's artificial. That does not fit with your story. But if your story is this person is kidnapped and the person who saw them from a distance and instantly fell in love, and their whole mission in the rest of the book is to solve that mystery, well, then that makes sense. And then it's not an artificial cliffhanger.
Have you guys ever seen the show Between the Lions?
Yes.
It's a kid's show about reading, and they have the part about cliffhangers in the show, and there's literally a guy named Cliff hanging by one hand off of a cliff. And every time that we talk about cliffhangers, I see that in my mind.
Yep, it's a very good device. I remember very well. Now, we were talking about an artificial cliffhanger, kind of sounded a little bit like a mistake. What are some other common mistakes people make when they are trying to kind of foreshadow the problem or introduce the problem early?
Well, starting too early is...
Yeah. So you want early, but not too early.
There's a reason why we talk about characters first, and then we're getting into plot point. Make sure that we care about the character first before you ever try to introduce any of this of the problem. Yeah.
Well, then I guess saving it for too long, not doing it at all would be another mistake. Like not doing this.
Agreed. You've got to, like, again, for the same reason why you don't wait 4 or 5 chapters to describe like what your characters look like. If it matters, if you want people to know what your characters look like, you have to do that early on. You have to do the things that are important to the story early on, including introducing love interests if it's a romance, introducing like the mystery. You have to make sure that you don't wait too long for that.
Well, what about just kind of info dumping?
Yeah,
I would think that would be a temptation.
Don't do it in your first chapter. Don't do it. But in the first chapter,
don't do it at all.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Nancy Smith was just too cowed by her overbearing father, who was born in the time of Victoria. You know what I mean?
Like, or you just say, Daddy always told me to sit still. Boom. Like that's like something like that gives you enough. We're like, oh, there's a story there. That's all you want.
I see this a lot in TV shows, this info dumpy stuff. And I like to watch like crime TV. So it'll be like where everybody's gathered together to talk about the case. And the guy's up with this board and he starts from the beginning. Like everybody in the room doesn't already know that, person A died on such and such a street yesterday, and that's why they're there in the first place. Like it's so, but it works for TV shows, but you would want to do that in your book.
The vision. Go ahead, Tina.
The flip side of that coin is that you also got to give enough context so that they care, right? Like if it's a mystery, like you can't just like, I don't write mystery, but I know I've seen it done badly. Like where they give you a little bit of the mystery, but there's not enough context. There's not enough of you, like for you to be able to like start piecing it together. If I can't start piecing the mystery together and start being a sleuth on my own, like within the first, 10 minutes of the show or first chapter of a book, then I'm probably out. Like there's too many books out there. I don't waste time.
My favorite beginnings of those kind of shows is when you see this ordinary person doing something really dumb and like walking home late at night down by the river in London, right? Some lady in the short skirt and high heels walking home from the bar, and next thing you know, you see her dead, like
shocker,
in the weeds. And then the detective shows up. So you don't have all the info dump, right, of the person standing there explaining what happened. You already know that this lady was walking home late at night from the bar and she got murdered. And this detective is here to solve the mystery.
And if you don't know what we mean by info dumping, like a good example for your writing would be if I'm writing a scene between me and a friend that like the two of us went to college together. If I say something like, when Susie Smith, the one who went to Boston University with us back in the late 1990s, I would never say that to someone who I actually went to college with. I would say, remember Susie from college? That's all I had to say because we know at college, we know when we went to college, the time. Like that's what we mean by info dumping is when you try to pack so much information to a small space that it just feels disingenuous to those that are reading.
Well, and I think that since we brought up mystery, I think we need to talk a little bit about what you're promising your reader in the first chapter, because that is very much a genre expectation. We always talk about how Rhonda brought mystery to our reading group and Jen had some critique and we were all like, no, this is mystery. So that critique is not that's a good romance critique, right?
Right.
Because there is certain expectations in a mystery story, especially your traditional type like Agatha Christie, that do not apply to other genres. So you need to deliver on the promise of the genre in the first chapter, as well as make a promise to your readers going forward about what they can expect.
Right. I mean, we all would, if you have a story to write and you feel like it doesn't really fit a genre, but you're just writing to write, great. But if you're writing for readers, which is what this episode is about, is like how to get the readers to turn past chapter 1, you need to know your genre. You need to have a genre. You need to fit yourself to the expectations, the tone, like just no matter what, there are reader expectations. Readers
cozies are not going to be the same as a straightforward mystery.
Yeah. And then different romances. I mean, that's what's crazy too, is that if you write one kind of romance, doesn't necessarily mean that you have know how to write other kinds of romances. And I'm not just talking spicy versus clean. I'm talking I'm telling you, if you want to dip your toes in Regency romance, you better know your Regency information, because Regency readers are some of the most vicious readers when it comes to, if you don't get something right as far as how what the dresses look like, or what the how men and women react to each other. Do not say that he reached for her hand. Do not. If they don't have gloves on, they did not touch hands, and you will get slammed in the reviews. So I'm saying you need to know these things. So no,
this is the same in fantasy. There's 1,000 different kinds of fantasy, and even if you only take the category of dragons and elves and trolls, there's categories of there's noble dark and noble light, and there's 5 or 6 different categories of the type of fantasy that can be. And there are readers that won't read the dark stuff. They only want the light stuff. And there's readers that want the dark stuff. So you have to know your genre, and you have to know your readers. And I think the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to be that reader,
which is
and read as much of it as possible.
Which is why your first chapter is so important, because guess what? On Amazon, maybe even on Barnes & Noble, but for sure on Amazon, you get that look inside, and people, before they buy the book, will look inside, and they want to know what this book is. The back of the book blurb is super important. That first chapter is so important, because you don't want somebody picking up your book that isn't going to like your genre and what you've written, because guess what's going to happen in the reviews? You're going to get slammed. Right. Yep. Plus, you want to be able to deliver the expectations. So their first chapter needs to represent what they are expecting.
Well, and I think that the good news in this scenario is that people can have their own little peccadillos about what they like in a book. And that just makes an audience for you if you write that way. So the good news is you can cater to an audience and make them super fans by giving them exactly what they want.
Yes.
Especially if you can do it in a unique way that really just makes them happy.
Right.
Okay.
So ultimately, make sure that we love your characters. Make sure that the opening scene is connected to the rest of the book, and make sure it fits genre. We could have probably just done the episode in those 3 sentences and moved on, right? Yeah. But overall, it feels like that's what we're talking about, right? Yep.
All right. Well, I think that covers basically the topic of the day. So I think it's time to move on. We're going to do the feeding of the bags, which is when we take a prompt and we all write to it before the show. We set a 15-minute timer so that we always know that we're going to have a length that's readable, because that's what we do is we come on the show and read them to you. We haven't edited them or anything. And so just to throw Tina a curveball, I'm going to make her go first. And
oh, wow.
Yes, because I've been hosting a lot. Today? Oh my gosh. I've been hosting a lot, and I feel like Jenna's getting picked on too much. So what do you think, Tina? Can you tell us the topic, the sprint topic, and what you wrote?
Okay, it was 5 words. The 5 words were mention, lazy, twist, reproduce, and error.
Hey, Tina, can you put your mic a little bit closer to your mouth? It sounds like you're far away.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's rigid, so.
Gotcha.
That's the closest I can get it, unfortunately.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And I actually said this first line to Jen right before the podcast as a joke. When I was looking at, so anyway, here we go. Did I mention I'm lazy? I said. Jeff raised his eyebrows. Well, there's a plot twist for you. The sarcasm in this place is dripping so bad we're going to need some towels, said Karen. I rolled my eyes at Karen's attempt to compete with the masters, then turned back to my keyboard. Finger on home row, cursor blinking at me. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. I typed it 3 times. Hoping in vain that inspiration would hit somehow. What is my motivation? I said out loud. To become a best-selling author and make a ton of money, Jeff offered. No, that's not it. What do you mean that's not it? Why else would anyone do this? It's so hard. It makes my brain hurt. And if I'm never going to make money doing it, I may as well. I held my hand up before Karen could finish. I'm not going to allow you to use that 4-letter word around me. I write because I need to. I need to get the words out. I need a canvas for my ideas, for the narratives that are constantly running in my head, for the opportunity to try to bring the complete experience of God's creation onto the written page. It's like the call of the wild, only in literary terms. Buck had to go north and run with the pack and sing the songs of his ancestors. I need to put words onto a blank page so that they create poetry and feeling and evoke the experience of being alive in a world so full of beauty. You should write that down, Jeff quipped. I'm sure somebody will read it. Then he turned back to his own laptop, probably to describe another something blowing up in a spectacular explosion. Some of us like the majesty of snow-capped mountains, towering pines, and rushing turquoise rivers, and some of us like to blow things up. That's the beautiful thing about everyone being different. I think I'm going to have Bo just kiss her knuckles, Karen informed us. Just a brush, like the wings of a butterfly. I think you're stealing that from somewhere, Jeff said, his eyes reaching up to the left in search of the memory. It's okay, I assured him. It's what her readers want. They never get tired of it. Just like some people never get tired of, let's say, explosions. Jeff stuck his tongue out at me. Okay, miss, the scent of spruce and fresh dirt tickled my nose. Point taken. And then the timer went off.
Yay! I like this writing group.
You too. Okay, lots of good feedback. The masters, like this person, like there's two of you that are super sarcastic and someone else is trying to be that. You're like, how dare she? How dare she? I love that part. The Call of the Wild reference and that whole thing was so good. Like this piece of writing was very Inception-ish. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Inception, but like writing, like dreaming about dreaming. This is like writing about writing. And I loved it. Like it was like you were writing about this person who was writing this and having this experience, but at the same time, you're writing this and having this experience. Like it was so well done. I really loved it.
Agree.
Yeah.
Especially when Jeff said you should write that down.
Yeah, I know. That was so good.
And it is true. That little bit before he said that was some really cool personal insight and a little glimpse into your why, I think. Would you say that was autobiographical?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the human experience is the foundation of art, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It really is.
So I, for one, am glad you did not ever the forward and that you keep on working with us. So really. Oh,
Thanks.
and Christy said that it was cracking her up. She must sing the song of her ancestors.
I know. I think whenever we're blocked now, we just need to say out loud, I must sing the song of my ancestors.
That's great. All right. Okay,
right,
Tina,
Jamie,
is your
it's your
back
turn.
well fed? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
What
Did I
do,
mention?
Jamie?
Oh, yeah. All right. There's the 5 words there. I think I got all but one, maybe.
Good, because I only got that other one. Sorry,
yes.
There's a delay. Sorry.
All right. Did I mention there's a lazy river? Yes, with 14 twists and 20 yards of rapids, which, by the way, doesn't exactly sound lazy to me. Tina pressed her lips together. Sorry, Tina, it's Trina. Pressed her lips together, happy that this was a phone conversation and that her mother was not able to see the expression. Remembering advice that people could hear your smile in your voice, she pasted on a fake one and said, "True, but I bet you're looking forward to that swim up tiki bar." "Sure I am. Cheap booze in little plastic cups. Sounds exquisite. Unlimited cheap booze, don't forget. All I hear is hangover and stomach upset." "That's it," Trina said, slamming her fist down on her Formica kitchen counter. "Mother, I'm going to need you to at least pretend to be happy about taking this trip." "Why on earth should I do that?" Trina pressed the tips of her fingers to her forehead. Because, Mother, when I made the error of booking this trip for you and Daddy, I made the error of failing to purchase travel insurance. Well, why on earth would you do that? Daddy and I have always told you that's a waste of money. Because, Mother dearest, if I had purchased the insurance, I would be able to cancel this trip and get my money back. Even as she said this, Trina went to her desktop computer and pulled up the travel agent's website, wondering if even a partial refund was still a possibility based on the terms and conditions of the package. Now, why on earth would you do that? Her mother said again, and Trina did not let her elaborate. Because, Mother, every time I bring up the trip, your response is sour and contrary. Don't you speak to me in that tone, her mother shrieked, alarmed. The effect was lost on Trina. Usually when her mother started in on this tack, Trina was a coward. She had learned from hard experience that a rift in her relationship with her mother was a surefire recipe for limited to no access to her father, whom she loved dearly, but could never quite understand. But this week had been hard enough, and the pinch in her budget caused by the splurge for the anniversary trip had been the cause of the biggest fight she'd ever had with her own husband, Jeremy. The so slow it should have been replaced a year ago machine finally loaded up her account page on the travel website, and Trina scrolled down to the refund policy. If she canceled now, she could still get nearly half of what she'd put down back. I love you, Dad, she thought, but I can't do this anymore. She said out loud, I'm sorry for my tone, Mother, as she clicked the button to cancel. An alert popped up asking her if she was sure, and then the timer went off.
Oh my gosh. Now I'm never going to know.
Me either.
Boy, this mom sounds like she's just precious.
Bless her heart.
Bless her
We
heart.
need a towel for the sarcasm that's dripping.
Yeah, right. The mommy dearest line was great. The hear your smile, that's a true thing. It's something they teach you when you're in radio, and it really does make a difference. So that was very interesting. But yeah, oh my gosh. So again, here we go. We don't have the entire backstory of this of Trina, but we know Trina and we feel for her. We're like, push the button, Trina, push it. Push the button. Oh gosh. I also would like the mom to like redeem it and say like, no, I'm sorry. Like, but that probably isn't going to happen. Yeah. Sorry.
Never does.
And that pulled on the universal need in all of us to finally stand up to that person who has not necessarily been bullying us, but making us feel like we can't stand up for ourselves.
And shame on her dad. How in the world would that'd be the day that I would let my spouse keep me from my kids, no matter what was going on between them and my kids. That would be the day.
This is the thing. I would like to write, I don't know, this kind of family epic, whatever stuff. Like, who is that? Danielle Steele, who just writes these like families, you know, and just everything that happens. But I feel like I don't know what genre is that.
It's romance.
It's romance?
Yeah, because
I've read some that aren't necessarily romance. They're generational sagas.
Okay.
But they are very close to romance, some of them.
Christy says, oh my goodness, Jen's facial expressions while Jamie is reading.
Oh no, we're gonna have to go back and watch that.
She'll have to go back and watch it later.
I didn't notice.
I was very invested. Very invested. Christy says, but this conflict is so much deeper. Honor thy mother and father. How in the world do you do that with the impossible parents? I think this would be a good expanded for sure. I agree. I would love to hear more of this. And I want to know what happens when she cancels it, because she better cancel it.
Thanks, friends. I love Friday. What did you write to these 5 words, Jen?
Okay. So I know we're not supposed to give like constructive criticism, but I'm opening the door if you guys want to do that. So, okay. I only used 1 word, and we are in Marnie.
That's it. There's my criticism.
Okay. And then I'm in Marnie and Mr. Voss's world. Okay.
Okay.
and this is right after he has to hire her because the dad came and said she's hired. Okay. The first day as the new CEO of X Name Insurance was getting off to a great start. You're late. As if his father didn't know exactly why he was late. That's funny. I've always been taught that the boss is never late. He stared at his father for a few seconds, then he placed his phone on the conference table, face down, and sat. There was no response from his father. He hadn't expected one, so there was no surprise there. A few board members shifted in their seats and averted their eyes, which is exactly what he had expected. No one knew how to behave in this new twist of fate that had dethroned his father as the head of the corporation that his own father had built and had placed his own son in his place. But if that son had learned anything, it was that you only have as much authority as you are willing to shoulder, and shoulder it he must. Okay, sorry for the delay. Did everyone receive the link to this morning's agenda? The aforementioned averted eyes now all darted to the former CEO. His father cleared his throat. We don't do things that way around here, son. He nodded to the woman at his side, Norma, the faithful secretary who had served as his secretary for the past 20 years, and she began passing out papers. She gave a sympathetic look when she got to him, but said nothing. A quick glance at the pages told him everything he needed to know. Dad, he said quietly, can we speak in the hallway for a moment? After the meeting, he said at full volume. This meeting won't take long. And then the timer went off.
I'm so mad. I want more. There's my first criticism. So what is it that you think needs critique? Like, obviously, you're going to fix the word stumbles, so that's not a thing. So what's the issue here, in your opinion?
So the goal is, which we've kind of said from the very first time I sprinted anything in this world, is that we don't name Mr. Boss until like the very end. But the way that I've outlined it, he has some of his own chapters so that we learn more of what's going on in the company and like that. I don't know how to write those chapters without giving him some sort of name.
Okay.
Like it becomes very confusing because in the one chapter or the one paragraph, he's talking about his dad, his grandfather. Like it's a struggle.
I feel like he has a nickname that he does not like, but doesn't sound, it's not like Bumpy or something, but it's like he's called Chaz or he's called
Bucky. I call him Bucky later.
He wishes his dad would stop and would use his professional real name. That even adds to like the conflict. Like nobody's going to respect me if I'm Bucky all the time. You know what I mean? So then that even helps to kind of give you a reason why you haven't disclosed the name.
So yes, I've thought about that. And then the dad could even be like, okay, fine, you're the boss. And then his dad can call him, hey, boss, like to be like a jerk.
I love that.
But when I'm doing internal like when I'm doing the internal stuff, like in that part where he talks about the new twist of fate and like that, at some point I have to name him so that we can, because it's a bunch of he's. If there's any sort of like talk about like him and his dad or him and any other man, like it gets confusing because I can't ground it with, because I can't even like name the dad because the dad will have the same last name. Does that make sense? So like I'm really at the point where I'm wondering like, is this a bad idea? I can do, there's options. I can just move forward and try to write it like we were talking about and see how it sounds. I can backtrack and make it a one person perspective. I can write the whole book from just Marnie's perspective, or I can give up on the idea and we can give him a name. It's just Marnie doesn't know his name. Those are the three options I'm seeing.
I have two things to say.
Okay.
First of all, in the internal or whatever, he could even be like, even I'm calling myself Bucky or whatever. Right. Second of all, you're the girl who wrote a whole novel where a man did not discover his employee's name. Like if anyone can do it, you can, because you did it in that other book. So I know that if this is what you want to do, you will solve these problems. I have every confidence in you, but there's nobody who's going to know that you made these choices except for our audience. And so it's up to you.
Christy says, you just tell him, son. I do that as well. I guess I'm not explaining correctly. Like when I'm saying, when I am inside his head, but I am the third person. Like it's not first person. This is third person. So the third person eventually has to refer to them as something, and they're not going to refer to him as Bucky, but I can possibly work that out. But sorry, Tina.
I know that you want this to be in third person, but could you do his POV chapters in first person?
I'd have to write the whole book that way. So there's a fourth option. I write the whole book over again. All the chapters are already done, but I do everything in first person. I'm not opposed to that either, because it is contemporary romance, and that is a very acceptable way of doing it. So,
well,
I have read books where most of it is third person, and then just one person's is first person, but it's not. It's not.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Well, it's already
a little confusing.
You've already said Bucky, but I feel like in a corporate environment, you're called what you're called. And unless he's going to correct people, no, call me Mr. So-and-so, especially in a company that's this established with like Norma and everything. And if the company norm is that he's called MJ, or if the company norm is that he's called, Mr. Bucky or whatever it is, like you get to decide that, because that will just be the reality of that world, whether or not you think it's realistic, because that's what ends up happening. The name just sticks, and no matter how much you wish it would be different.
So I'm not, that's not the stuff I'm worried about. I know the dad can call him son. I'd already decided that. And then we can do like a Bucky thing or whatever, if I decide to keep that. Everyone else, like I can do all the conversations that are out loud. I can do that. No problem. I'm not worried about that. It's not that. It's the third person narrative parts that I'm struggling with without making them confusing for the reader. So it may just be that I just have to work really hard on those chapters to like rewrite them in a way that's not confusing.
Could you do it with formatting instead of dialogue tags?
I'm not talking dialogue tags.
I know,
we're running out of time, so I guess this is going to be probably a conversation that we have later.
Maybe we can have it in the salon when we get together with our writing group.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Well, that's apparently what's next for you, is to revisit that, right, Jen? Or do you have something else?
Nope, that's exactly where I'm at right now. So, yep.
What about you, Tina? What's next for you?
Well, I don't know what's next, but I want to talk about something that happened. I think it was actually this in the middle of the night, because one of our listeners, Alyssa, lives in Alaska, and she's also on my writing group. So she's read what I've written in my third book. And in my third book, it's set in Valdez, Alaska, and there's a side main character. She's not really the main character, called Tazlina, and she was in Tazlina River and took a picture of the Tazlina trading post and sent it to me and said, I didn't realize that Tazlina was a place.
That's lovely.
Was actually on her way to Valdez when she did. And she took that picture. So
that is so cool.
So cool. Yeah.
I love our community, and I'm so excited to see you guys next Friday, and then everyone who's a Patreon member in our salon the second Tuesday of the month. But that's it for today. Till next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadline be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.